Chapter 1. The Feeling of Being Lost. There is a quiet feeling many people carry. It doesn't scream. It doesn't always hurt. It simply lingers. A sense that something is missing. A sense that life is moving, but you are standing still. A sense that you are here, but not fully here. This is what it means to feel lost. Being lost does not always mean you don't know where you're going. Sometimes it means you know where you are supposed to be, but you don't feel connected to it. You wake up, you follow routines, you fulfill responsibilities. Yet inside, there's a quiet question you rarely say out loud. Is this really my life? Many believe feeling lost means something has gone wrong, that they miss a step, chose incorrectly, fell behind, but the truth is deeper. Feeling lost is not a mistake. It is awareness beginning to wake up. When life no longer feels automatic, something inside you has changed. You are no longer satisfied with surface answers. You are no longer comforted by noise. You are no longer distracted enough to forget yourself. This discomfort is not a failure. It is the soul asking to be heard. People often try to escape this feeling. They distract themselves with productivity, with goals, with relationships, with endless self-improvement. But distraction does not remove the feeling of being lost. It only postpones a conversation. The feeling returns in silence, late at night, in moments of stillness, when everything slows down. And when it returns, it brings unease. Because we are not taught how to sit with uncertainty. We are taught to fix it. But some things are not meant to be fixed. They are meant to be understood. To feel lost is to stand at the edge of a deeper life. It is the moment when old meanings stop working. The goals you once chased no longer excite you. The identities you built no longer feel true. The direction you followed feels borrowed. This is not emptiness. It is transition. The mind interprets transition as danger. It demands answers. What should I do? Where should I go? Who should I become? But the deeper wisdom does not rush. It waits. Ancient wisdom understood the state well. Long before modern psychology, there was an understanding that feeling lost is not disorientation. It is initiation, an inner shedding, a loosening of what no longer fits. You are not lost because you lack direction. You feel lost because your old direction can no longer carry who you are becoming. This is a crucial distinction. Most people never reach this stage. They remain comfortable enough to avoid questioning. They stay busy enough to avoid listening. Feeling lost means you have slowed down enough to notice the distance between your inner life and your outer world. That awareness is rare and uncomfortable because awareness removes illusions. You can no longer pretend that what once satisfied you still does. You can no longer ignore the quiet pull towards something deeper, even if you cannot name it yet. The feeling of being lost is often accompanied by guilt. Guilt for not being grateful enough. Guilt for wanting more when nothing is wrong. Guilt for questioning a life others admire. But guilt has no place here. Your inner truth does not need permission. You are allowed to feel disconnected. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to question. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of honesty. What makes this stage painful is not the feeling itself. It is the belief that something is wrong with you for feeling it. That belief turns reflection into fear. But imagine this instead. What if feeling lost is not losing your way, but realizing you were never meant to walk the old path forever? What if the confusion is not a sign of failure, but a sign that your inner life is expanding beyond its previous boundaries? When a seed begins to grow, the shell must crack. From the inside, this feels like breaking. From the outside, it looks like becoming. You are not lost because you are behind. You are not lost because you failed. You are not lost because you are weak. You feel lost because something truer is trying to emerge, and the old structures can no longer contain it. This stage asks for patience, not panic. Stillness, not urgency. Listening, not rushing. The mistake most people make is trying to escape this feeling. But wisdom teaches something else. Stay, not forever, not passively, but long enough to hear what the feeling is pointing toward. Because the feeling of being lost is not empty. It is full of information. It is telling you what no longer matters, what no longer aligns, what no longer belongs, and slowly, what does. Before clarity comes, there is confusion. Before direction, there is stillness. Before meaning, there is questioning. This is not the end of the path. It is the doorway. You are not lost. You are between versions of yourself. And that space, though uncomfortable, is sacred. Chapter 2. Loss is an illusion. What we call loss often arrives quietly. It does not always announce itself with tragedy. Sometimes it appears as a subtle absence, a fading interest, a relationship that no longer feels alive, a dream that once burned bright but now feels distant. And the mind names it immediately. I have lost something. But wisdom asks a gentler question. Did you truly lose it, or did it simply finish its purpose? We are taught to fear loss. From an early age, we are conditioned to hold tightly to people, roles, achievements, identities. We are told that keeping is success, that letting go is failure, that change means something has gone wrong. Yet ancient wisdom speaks differently. It suggests that nothing essential can be lost, only what was never meant to stay. What you lose was not taken from you. It moved on because its work with you is complete. This idea challenges the way the mind works. The mind wants permanence. It wants guarantees. It wants control. But life does not operate through possession. It operates through movement. When something leaves your life, the mind immediately feels threatened. It clings to memory. It replays what was. It asks why. But deeper wisdom whispers something softer. You are not being emptied. You are being rearranged. Loss feels painful because we attach identity to what we have. We say, I am this relationship. I am this role. I am this version of myself. So when it changes, it feels as if we are disappearing. But you are not what you hold. You are what remains when holding is no longer possible. Think of how seasons move. Autumn does not apologize for letting leaves fall. Winter does not cling to warmth. Spring does not regret the cold. Nothing in nature resists change. Only humans interpret it as loss. Ancient wisdom understood that what leaves us creates space, and space is not emptiness. It is potential. When something ends, we rush to fill the gap. Noise, distraction, replacement. We do this because stillness scares us, but the space left behind is where transformation begins. The pain of loss does not come from absence. It comes from resistance, from saying, this should not have happened, but what if it happened because it needed to? Loss is often the collapse of illusions, illusions of control, illusions of permanence, illusions that we are separate from the flow of life. When these illusions break, it feels like falling, but falling is not the same as disappearing. What you truly are cannot be lost, not your awareness, not your capacity to love, not your inner depth. Those things do not belong to circumstances. They belong to your essence. Loss strips away what you leaned on, so you can discover what stands on its own. You. This is why loss often precedes clarity. Why endings often come before awakenings. Why confusion comes before understanding. The mind says, I had something and now I don't. Wisdom says, you experienced something and now it has changed form. Nothing real disappears. It only transforms. Even grief, when observed closely, is not about what left. It is about the love that is nowhere to go. Love does not vanish. It waits. It deepens. It learns new ways to express itself. When we label change as loss, we freeze time. We trap ourselves in what was, but life moves forward gently, relentlessly, asking us to move with it. There's a quiet trust required here, not blind optimism, but a deep understanding that life does not take without giving, though the gift may arrive later and in a different shape. You may not yet see what is forming, and that is okay. Seeds grow underground before breaking the surface. Loss feels unbearable when we believe it defines us. But when we understand it as a passage, not a punishment, something softens. The grip loosens. The breath deepens. You are not behind because something ended. You are not broken because something left. You are being guided away from what can no longer meet you. The illusion of loss dissolves when you realize nothing essential was taken from you. What left was already becoming too small for who you are becoming. This understanding does not erase pain, but it gives pain meaning. And meaning transforms suffering into growth. When you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this making space for? You step into wisdom. Loss is not emptiness. It is rearrangement. It is clearing. It is preparation. You are not being reduced. You are being refined. Chapter 3. The Journey Inward. When life grows confusing, the world offers 1,000 directions, advice, opinions, noise. Everyone seems to know where you should go, what you should become, how you should fix yourself. Yet ancient wisdom points in a direction few are willing to take. Inward. We are trained to look outward for answers, for approval, for meaning, for reassurance that we are on the right path. But the path was never outside of you. It begins beneath the noise. The journey inward is not dramatic. It does not announce itself with certainty. Often, it begins with discomfort, a quiet dissatisfaction, a sense that something is missing, even when everything seems fine. This feeling is not a flaw. It is an invitation. When the external world no longer satisfies, it is not because you are ungrateful. It is because your awareness is deepening. What once distracted you can no longer fulfill you. The inward journey asks you to sit with what you usually avoid: silence, stillness, unanswered questions. At first, this feels unsettling. The mind resists stillness because it loses control there. When you slow down, buried thoughts rise. Unresolved emotions surface. The masks you wear begin to feel heavy. This is why many turn back. They mistake awareness for danger. But nothing arises to harm you. It arises to be seen. You are not broken because you feel confused. Confusion is a threshold between old understanding and new clarity. The inward journey does not require isolation from a world. It requires honesty within it. To notice how you react, to observe what triggers you, to see where fear disguises itself as certainty. Awareness changes everything. Not because it fixes you, but because it reveals you. When you observe your thoughts, you realize something quietly profound. You are not your thoughts. They come and go. You remain. This realization is freedom, because if you are not your thoughts, then confusion does not define you. Fear does not define you. Doubt does not define you. The inward journey teaches you to listen beneath the surface, to the subtle pull of intuition, to the quiet knowing that does not shout. This knowing is not logical. It does not argue. It simply recognizes truth when it appears. The world trains you to seek certainty. The inward path teaches you to trust uncertainty, to remain present even when answers are not clear. Clarity is not forced. It unfolds. When you stop demanding immediate understanding, insight arrives naturally, like light slowly filling a room. The inward journey reveals patterns. You begin to see how you repeat cycles, how you chase what cannot satisfy, how you abandon yourself to be accepted. And instead of judging yourself, you learn compassion. You see that these patterns were attempts to survive, to belong, to be loved. Nothing within you is accidental. Every behavior began as a response to something. Understanding this softens self-criticism. The inward path is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before you learned to hide. As awareness deepens, something shifts. You stop seeking validation. You stop measuring yourself against others. You stop rushing to become. You begin to rest in being. This does not make life passive. It makes it intentional. Actions begin to come from alignment instead of fear, from clarity instead of pressure. The inward journey also brings humility. You realize how little control you truly have, and instead of resisting this, you relax into it. Surrender here is not giving up. It is letting go of the illusion that you must force life to work. When you stop pushing, you notice something surprising. Life responds. Opportunities arise naturally. Connections feel more authentic. Decisions feel clearer. Not because you have all the answers, but because you trust yourself. The inward journey reconnects you with presence, and presence is where life actually happens. Not in regret, not in anticipation. Here, you are not lost because you feel uncertain. You're lost only when you stop listening inward. Every moment of discomfort is guidance. Every emotional reaction is information. Every pause is a chance to return to yourself. The inward journey does not end. It deepens. With each layer peeled away, what remains is quieter, but stronger. And eventually you realize you were never searching for direction. You were searching for permission to trust yourself. When you learn to listen inward, life stops feeling like something you must chase. It becomes something you participate in. You are not behind. You are becoming aware. And awareness is the beginning of wisdom. Chapter 4. You were never separate. One of the quietest fears we carry is the belief that we are alone, not just physically, but existentially. That we have been cut off from meaning, from purpose, from something greater than ourselves. This belief shapes how we move through life. It creates urgency, comparison, the constant need to prove that we belong. But separation is not truth. It is perception. From the moment you begin to believe you are separate, you begin to search for connection, for validation, for something to fill the space that never existed. Ancient wisdom does not teach reunion. It teaches remembrance. You were never outside of life. You were never excluded from meaning. You were never forgotten by existence. The idea of separation arises when identity becomes narrow. When you believe you are only your role, only your history, only your successes or failures. But you are not confined to a single story. You are the awareness witnessing it. When you slow down and observe your experience, you notice something subtle. Life is happening through you, not to you. Breath moves without instruction. Thoughts arise without command. Emotions flow like weather. This does not make you powerless. It reveals that you are part of something intelligent and alive. The sense of separation dissolves when you stop resisting what is. Resistance creates edges. Acceptance reveals continuity. When you stop fighting your emotions, they soften. When you stop rejecting parts of yourself, wholeness appears. Nothing in you exists by accident. Every trait, every tendency, every sensitivity has a place, even the parts you struggle with. The belief that you must fix yourself before you belong is a misunderstanding. Belonging is not earned. It is inherent. Nature does not question its worth. A tree does not apologize for its shape. A river does not compete with another river. Everything expresses itself fully without doubt. You are not separate from this intelligence. You are an expression of it. The moment you recognize this, striving loosens its grip. You stop trying to become enough. You realize you already are. This does not mean you stop growing. Growth becomes natural instead of forced. Evolution replaces self-judgment. When separation fades, compassion arises effortlessly. You see yourself in others. You recognize shared fears, shared longing, shared humanity. Judgment softens because you no longer need to defend your identity. The illusion of separation also fuels impatience. The feeling that life must hurry before time runs out. But when you see yourself as part of a larger unfolding, time relaxes. You trust the pace. You trust the process. Nothing essential is missing from this moment. Even uncertainty belongs here. The need to control comes from fear of disconnection. But when you feel rooted in something deeper, control becomes unnecessary. You begin to move with life instead of against it. Connection is not something you build. It is something you notice. You feel it when silence feels full, when stillness feels alive, when presence feels like home. Even pain feels different, not as punishment, but as communication. A signal calling attention inward. You were never meant to navigate life alone, and yet no one can walk your inner path for you. Both truths exist together. Interdependence does not erase individuality. It supports it. You are a unique expression, not an isolated one. The more you resist life, the more separate you feel. The more you allow life, the more connected you become. Nothing is asking you to be perfect. Life asks only that you be present. The belief in separation dissolves quietly, not through effort, through understanding. And when it fades, something steady remains. A sense of belonging that does not depend on circumstances. A calm that does not need explanation. You realize you were never trying to find your place in the world. You were remembering that you never left it. Chapter 5. The wound is not the enemy. We are taught to hide our wounds, to mask pain, to appear strong, to move on quickly. But the wound is not the enemy. It is the place where awareness knocks. Pain does not arrive to punish you. It arrives to reveal. Every wound carries information, not about what is wrong with you, but about what mattered. You do not feel pain where there was no attachment. Loss hurts because love existed. Rejection hurts because connection mattered. Failure hurts because hope was present. Your wounds point to your capacity, not your weakness. Yet we learn to treat pain as a flaw, something to suppress, something to escape, something to outgrow as quickly as possible. But pain ignored does not disappear. It buries itself. And buried pain shapes behavior. Unhealed wounds become reactions, defensiveness, avoidance, perfectionism, control. These are not character flaws. They are survival strategies. When a wound forms, the mind builds protection around it. Walls, rules, beliefs. These ones kept you safe, but over time, they begin to limit you. Healing does not mean reopening old pain recklessly. It means meeting it with awareness, with patience, with compassion. The wound is not asking to be relived. It is asking to be understood. When you turn toward pain instead of away from it, something shifts. The intensity softens, the story loosens, the body exhales. Pain held in awareness changes. Pain resisted tightens. The wound is where sensitivity lives. And sensitivity is not fragility. It is depth. People who feel deeply are often the ones who see clearly. They notice subtleties. They sense truth beneath words. They carry empathy that cannot be taught. The world often asks them to toughen up, but the wound is not asking for armor. It is asking for care. Healing begins when you stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and start asking, "What happened that made this necessary?" This question removes blame. It opens understanding. When you recognize your wounds as responses, not defects, self-compassion grows. You stop fighting yourself. You start listening. Some wounds are ancient, formed in childhood, in moments when safety was uncertain, when love felt conditional, when being yourself felt risky. You adapted, you learned, you survived. That survival deserves respect. But what once protected you may no longer be needed. The environment has changed. You have changed. The wound becomes a teacher. It shows you where boundaries are needed, where honesty is required, where gentleness must replace judgment. When you stop seeing the wound as something to fix, it transforms. It becomes wisdom. Pain does not define you, but it shapes you. Those who have suffered deeply often carry quiet strength, not loud confidence, but resilience, presence, depth. They know life's fragility, and because of that, they cherish what is real. The wound also humbles. It dissolves superiority. It reminds you of shared humanity. When you recognize your own pain, you become less cruel, less reactive, more understanding. Healing is not linear. Old pain may resurface, not because you failed, but because awareness deepened. Each return is an opportunity to meet yourself with greater kindness. The wound softens when it is seen. It tightens when it is denied. You do not need to rush healing. Time is not the healer. Attention is. When awareness rests gently on pain, integration begins. Not dramatic, not instant, but real. Eventually, you notice something quietly powerful. The wound no longer controls you. It informs you. It becomes a reminder of where you came from, not where you must stay. Your sensitivity becomes discernment. Your pain becomes depth. Your vulnerability becomes connection. You were never broken. You were shaped by experience. And awareness reshapes you again. The wound is not the enemy. It is the doorway. Chapter 6. Trust the Unfolding. Much of human suffering comes from resisting the timing of life. We want clarity before the path appears, certainty before movement, guarantees before trust. But life does not unfold on demand. It unfolds in its own rhythm. The mind wants control because uncertainty feels unsafe. Yet uncertainty is not danger. It is openness. When you try to force outcomes, tension grows. Anxiety tightens the body. Impatience clouds judgment. Trust is not passive. It is an active choice to move without complete visibility. Nature never rushes. A seed does not panic underground. It breaks open when conditions are ready. Your life is no different. Growth happens beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. Periods of confusion are not wasted time. They are incubation. When clarity has not arrived, it is often because something is still forming. Forcing decisions too early fractures the process. The need to know everything before moving forward keeps you frozen, but movement creates information. Trust grows through action, not thought. The fear of making the wrong choice often hides a deeper fear, the fear of not being able to adapt. But you are more resilient than you realize. You have adapted before. You will adapt again. Life does not demand perfection. It responds to sincerity. When you act with honesty, even mistakes become guidance. Trusting the unfolding does not mean ignoring discernment. It means listening more deeply. Sometimes life slows you down on purpose, not as punishment, but as protection. What feels like delay may be alignment. What feels like obstruction may be redirection. Resistance arises when expectations clash with reality. Acceptance dissolves friction. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means clarity. From clarity, wise action emerges. Many people mistake stillness for stagnation, but stillness is often preparation. The inner work you do when nothing seems to be happening shapes everything that comes next. When you stop rushing, you begin to notice patterns, signals, subtle invitations. Life speaks quietly. It requires presence to hear it. Trusting the unfolding also means releasing comparison. Your timeline is not wrong because it differs from someone else's. Different paths require different pacing. Trying to match another person's life creates unnecessary pressure. Your path responds to your values, your temperament, your lessons. Trust grows when you look back and recognize how things align in ways you could not have planned. Moments that once felt like setbacks often reveal themselves as turning points. Life's intelligence is not always obvious in the moment, but it becomes clearer in hindsight. The present is where trust is practiced, not by predicting the future, but by engaging fully now. You do not need to see the entire staircase, just the next step. When fear arises, it does not mean stop. It means proceed with awareness. Courage is not the absence of doubt. It is movement despite it. Trust does not eliminate effort. It aligns effort with reality. When you work against life, exhaustion follows. When you work with it, energy returns. The unfolding cannot be rushed, but it cannot be missed either. What is meant for you does not require force. It requires readiness. Readiness grows through patience, presence, and self-honesty. Let go of the fantasy of control. Hold the practice of attention. Life is not withholding from you. It is shaping you. And when the moment arrives, you will meet it prepared, not because you rushed, but because you trusted. Chapter 7. Love without losing yourself. Love is often taught as sacrifice. Give more, endure more, disappear quietly for harmony. But love that erases you is not love. It is abandonment of the self. True love does not demand that you shrink. It asks that you arrive whole. Many people confuse attachment with devotion. Attachment says, I need you to be okay. Love says, I choose you while remaining myself. When love becomes survival, fear enters. Fear of loss, fear of disapproval, fear of being alone, and fear distorts connection. You begin to perform instead of express. You anticipate instead of listen. You compromise your truth to preserve closeness. This is not intimacy. It is self-neglect. Love does not require self-betrayal. Boundaries are not barriers. They are clarity. A boundary says, this is where I end. This is where you begin. Without boundaries, resentment grows, and resentment erodes love silently. Losing yourself in another feels like unity at first, but over time it creates emptiness because you cannot be met if you are not present. Love flourishes where two whole beings meet, not where one disappears. Being yourself may risk conflict, but hiding yourself guarantees loneliness. You are not difficult for having needs. You are honest. Healthy love allows disagreement without threat, difference without punishment. When love feels unsafe, it becomes controlling, either controlling others or controlling yourself. Self-abandonment often masquerades as kindness, but kindness without honesty becomes quiet harm. Love is not proven by endurance alone. It is revealed through mutual respect. You teach people how to love you by how you treat yourself. When you value your inner life, others learn to value it too. If someone can only love you when you are small, that love has limits. You are allowed to change, to grow, to outgrow relationships that no longer honor your truth. Love is not ownership. It is recognition. You do not lose yourself by loving deeply. You lose yourself by forgetting who you are while doing so. Authentic love expands identity. It does not confine it. The fear of being alone often keeps people in relationships that slowly diminish them. But solitude with integrity is healthier than connection without selfhood. You are not meant to merge. You are meant to relate. Love rooted in wholeness is calmer, quieter, more durable. It does not rely on constant reassurance. It rests in mutual trust. You can care deeply without carrying another's emotional weight. You can support without rescuing. Love is not about fixing. It is about witnessing. When you remain yourself, love becomes sustainable. When you abandon yourself, love becomes exhausting. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to need space. You are allowed to choose yourself. This does not make you selfish. It makes you grounded. Only from groundedness can love flow freely. Chapter 8. You were never lost. The belief that you are lost is one of the deepest illusions the mind creates. It arises not because you have failed, but because you expected life to move in a straight line. But life is not linear. It spirals. It returns. It revisits the same questions at deeper levels. Feeling lost is often a sign of transition. The old identity no longer fits. The new one has not yet formed. This in-between space feels unstable, but it is sacred. You were not meant to know everything at once. You were meant to grow into knowing. When the familiar falls away, the mind panics. It searches for labels, directions, certainty. Yet the soul does not panic. It listens. The soul understands that confusion is not failure. It is recalibration. What you call being lost is often the shedding of borrowed maps. Maps given by society, by family, by fear. The moment those maps stop working, discomfort appears. But that discomfort is honesty. You are no longer pretending the path is clear when it is not. Being lost means you are no longer lying to yourself. This is progress. Clarity does not arrive by force. It arrives by presence. When you stop demanding answers, awareness deepens. And from awareness, direction emerges naturally. The need to be certain blocks wisdom. The willingness to be present invites it. Life is not testing you. It is refining you. Each moment of doubt sharpens discernment. Each pause strengthens intuition. You are not behind. There is no universal schedule. You are exactly where your growth requires you to be. Looking back, you'll see that nothing was wasted. Not the confusion, not the mistakes, not the waiting. Everything shaped your capacity to see more clearly. The belief that you should already have it figured out is inherited pressure, not truth. Even those who appear certain are still learning. They are simply comfortable with uncertainty. Peace does not come from knowing the future. It comes from trusting yourself in the present. You are not broken for questioning. You are awake. Rumi understood this deeply, that the path reveals itself through walking, not planning. When you stop calling yourself lost, something shifts. You begin to notice subtle guidance, inner signals, quiet nudges. Life speaks through resonance, not commands. When something aligns, you feel it. When it does not, you feel that too. Trust that intelligence. It has guided you this far. You do not need to become someone else to arrive. You need to return to yourself. The search was never outward. It was inward, disguised as wandering. What you have been seeking has been shaping you all along. You are not lost. You are unfolding. And unfolding has no fixed destination, only deeper presence. Let go of the urgency to define yourself. Allow yourself to experience yourself. Life is not waiting for you to arrive somewhere else. It is meeting you here. This moment is not a mistake. It is an invitation to trust, to listen, to continue without fear of not knowing. You were never lost. You were becoming.